Thank you very much, Mr. Jaffrey. I thank you for inviting me for this webinar. You mentioned that they can only ask questions after I finish. If you don't mind, it's okay for me that they ask questions, they interrupt me anytime. Is that fine for you?
Yes, sir, that is fine. I will. So it's your call. So if you are okay, as long they can interrupt you during the presentation.
No problem.
Makes it a little difficult to moderate, but we are okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Thank you very much. So we're going to be talking about translating values into action in Islamic economic model. Basically, I'm trying through this presentation to answer the following questions. One, how to expand Islamic economic activities beyond Islamic banking and to ensure they are about substance that is benefit, not just form. Why am I asking this question? Because many people tell me that Islamic banking is basically a banking that has Islamic instruments, that is basically taking care of one stakeholder, that is the investor, and nobody else. In other words, Islamic bankers are not necessarily as interested in the benefit of customers, society, employees, and their partners per se, or suppliers. This is not very something that we have lots of research evidence on, but this is a common understanding. There are people sometimes joke about Islamic banking and say they give you a hard time as a customer to make you go to pay for going to paradise. So the other question is how to move from shareholders' value to shared value. Here I'm referring to the paper by Porter and Harvard about shared value, moving from shareholders' values, that is the investors, to shared values between all stakeholders. And how do we move from a peripheral social responsibility to a for-benefit organization? I suppose that the audience have heard about for-benefit organizations. There have been lots of writings about it, particularly after 2008, after the economic crisis that happened in 2008. So are we going to be able, and how are we going to be able to move from shareholders' value to shared value, shared between all stakeholders, and from peripheral social responsibility to a for-benefit organization? Finally, basically, when we developed this model, we wanted to know what's the difference between this model and other excellence models, such as the American Baldrige or the European Foundation Excellence Model. So these are basically the three questions that I'm trying to address or find answers to in this presentation. So, what are the key components of excellence? We usually talk about basic excellence models. But in this presentation, I'll talk first about why we need an Islamic excellence model. Then I'll mention the development of the model and the criteria, the development and the basic concepts. Now, why do we need this model? Why do we need an Islamic excellence model? Some might say, why do we need a value-based excellence model? Why do we need excellence models? Why do we need awards in this world? Okay. The international financial crisis, coupled with ecological threats, stimulates higher interest, not only in providing governance, but also in developing and implementing different economic approaches. You know, when we have a crisis, when we have business as usual, when we have a status quo, people don't ask themselves questions. But after we had the crisis, many people said, hey, maybe we have a problem. You know, we're having problems, global warming. Our finances are not doing well. We have a big problem with risk management. Somebody like Greenspan, when he was asked, would this crisis be repeated, he said yes, because we have been using the same model and we've been basically motivated by one factor, that is greed. So people are realizing that we're getting nowhere and we're stumbling from one crisis to another, and they started asking, shouldn't we have a different economic approach? Different way of looking at the economy. The other thing is, many people have been taking social responsibility as a peripheral activity. You will do everything for the investor, and you'll spend 1% or whatever of your profit for the society. You pollute, and you have heard about what the scandal of Volkswagen, with emission and trying to cheat the consumers. This is basically the first value is pleasing the consumer. People are looking for money. Social responsibility is not at the heart of the business. So there is a need to move from social responsibility probably to for-benefit organization. Because of this crisis, many people started talking, hey, let's talk about conscious capitalism. One of the most famous authors of conscious capitalism is John Mackay. We also have Soda, and people have been talking about for-benefit organization, and this organization is, there are laws allowing the incorporation of such organizations in 22 states in the United States, and maybe there are more of them every day. So now we're seeing, and we saw some interest in Islamic economics after the crisis, and we're looking for basically different avenues for sustainable success. If you remember the book by Peters and Waterman, although it's outdated, it was published in 1982, In Search of Excellence. Since then, people have been talking about values. Then we had the famous book by Collins and Porras, Built to Last. Well, lots of these books talked about values, and they talked about how value-driven organization outperformed their competitors. Harvard Business has published a case study on how Johnson & Johnson was able to translate its values into actions, and we had a lot of literature about it. Companies like McKinsey talk about healthy factor for strategic implementation, and when they talk about health of an organization, they basically talk about values. Corporate governance is something essential for effectiveness and corruption control, and we have seen increased interest in corporate governance at the beginning of the century, basically after the Enron scandal. So all these factors together bring us or lead us to think of developing something that is more in tune with for-benefit organization and with conscious economics. The book by Soda et al., and his colleagues talked about terms of endearment. These are the terms of endearment. Basically, these are terms that had a culture of endearment, a conscious culture, and these were basically had a relationship of endearment with all stakeholders, not just with investors. And these companies were found to beat the Standard & Poor's 500 peer firms. Their returns were 9 times those of the Standard & Poor's 500 in a 10-year period. It's also mentioned that 60 million Americans are conscious consumers, while socially responsible investors manage $2.7 trillion. In this part of the world, we know that in Asia, conscious capitalism is on a good road in the States. In this part of the world, we all know about the Garakan Bank, and its founder, has been working very hard to develop social entrepreneurship and socially responsible organizations. We had about 100,000 sustainable business adopting a better model that is close to for benefit organizations. Basically, when we try to get something that supports for benefits organization and conscious capitalism, we will be able to align strategic partners, vendors, suppliers, and stockholders. In the context of conscious capitalism, we don't have a zero-sum relationship. We don't have a conflict between the interest, or we don't accept the inevitability of having a conflict between serving the interest of employees and serving the interest of customers, or serving the interest of society and serving the interest of investors. We believe that we can serve them all, and we could do better, and it was proven that yes, we can do better if we serve all customers. In spite of the fact that we had lots of interest about conscious capitalism, about for benefit organization, in spite of the presence of socially responsible funds, in spite of the interest in for benefit organization, we still have a challenge of disseminating the knowledge about for benefit enterprises and conscious capitalism. Well, lots of things exist in certain parts of the world. They're limited. I'm in the United Arab Emirates, and not many people hear about for benefit organization or conscious capitalism. On the other hand, Islamic economics is limited to Islamic finance. And Islamic financial institutions are not necessarily for benefit organizations. Lots of people complain about the fact that these organizations are basically serving one stakeholder only, that is the investor. Now, if we look at the current Islamic institutional infrastructure, we find prudential regulation, we find credit rating services, or we find halal product certification. We talk about corporate excellence, but not necessarily value-driven excellence. We talk about regular business excellence, basically. We have accounting standards, we have Islamic Financial Institutions Association, but basically we still have the challenge of governance, we have the challenge of having for-benefit organizations, and still most institutions are concerned with Islamic financial institutions and not all sectors of the economy. So what's missing? The for-benefit identity, ensuring value-based management and governance, and non-financial sectors seem to be overlooked. So this is the gap that we have in the current markets. Well, the literature has told us, as I mentioned earlier, that value-driven organizations outperform their competitors. I mentioned some work by Sisodia, work of Collins and Porras. We have some work dating back to '82 by Peters and Waterman. We have Badoraka and Ellsworth from Harvard, their book published in 1981 on the quest for integrity. We also had lots of literature showing that companies that have social purpose and are committed to sustainability outperform other companies, and we have plenty of references there too. So recently, as I mentioned, we had more interest in shared value, coming back to Porter, for benefit organization and conscious capitalism. This is the book this is the work of Porter, Sabeti, Helen, worked on for-benefit organization. Sisodia authored about, he co-authored actually with McCain the work, and George the work on conscious capitalism, and he had also worked with his colleagues to publish Firms of Endearment and how they outperformed their competitors. Now, so what do you want to do? What do you want to do? The literature is there. Some evidence is there. Significant evidence is there. But we have not been able to disseminate this knowledge. We have known from the quality movement, which I come from, because most of my publications had been on quality, that quality had become popular through excellence models and quality models. And we have seen that excellence models and awards have improved quality and financial performance. And we have lots of work, lots of evidence for that. So maybe if we had some kind of excellence award given to organizations that are for benefit, maybe we can spread the information or the knowledge about for benefit organizations. Maybe we could have more conscious capitalism through having these awards. Awards are very powerful ways to transfer knowledge and to develop new knowledge, because you might create an award. I know this university in California called Singularity University. They launched an award with a couple of businessmen called Ansaris, and they basically had a 10 million award for technological development. So they would give $10 million, and people throughout the world will invest millions of dollars to achieve those technological innovations. So by virtue of having awards, we can have more people participate, we can have better results and better knowledge development and dissemination. If I talk about quality, for example, not many people know about the gurus of quality such as Deming or Juran, but quality had become popular through excellence awards and definitely through ISO certifications. I move to corporate governance. We know that corporate governance reduces corruption and increases firm value, and we have evidence for that. Islamic governance goes along with the for-benefit concept because it focuses on all stakeholders, and this is the evidence we have for that. So these are relevant lessons that we have from the literature. So far, we had some work in Islamic economics, and as I said, on conscious capitalism. In Malaysia, they have tried two Islamic standards, one called MS 1900, that is aligned with ISO 9000, and one was MS 2300, which is a value-based model. In Sharjah, there was a value-based excellence model that was applied by the Chamber of Commerce in Sharjah for a number of years. So we had some experience in this direction. There's some work on Islamic financial services. How come I have published Islamic government codes? So we have some works on Islamic governance too. And we also have Islamic governance standards that focused on the financial sector, basically developed by, I think, the Federation of Islamic Banks. Now, we're talking about developing this model. Basically, for every excellence model, we have to have some concepts on which we develop this model. And I'm going to go later on and present the basic concepts or the values upon which the European excellence model and the Baldrige excellence model have been developed. So this Islamic excellence model is based on 5 key principles or key concepts. One, we have to have noble means. How do we do that? We have to translate Islamic values into actions. Now, do Islamic banks do that? Not necessarily. Some might do, some might not. What Islamic banks do, they abide by the laws of Sharia, or they have what you call Islamic instruments, Islamic valid instruments. But are their plans, their systems, their structures based on Islamic values? Not necessarily. Now, we need to have not only noble means, but we need to have noble ends. What do we mean by that? Well, basically, we need to have sustaining outstanding benefits for all stakeholders. Now, do Islamic banks have that in mind? Well, some might not. Sometimes we're dependent on the person we're dealing with. We don't have a formal policy that treats stakeholders equally or that gives equal importance to stakeholders. The fact that we know Islamic bankers answers to their boards who represent their shareholders who want to maximize their values, i.e. their money. So what we want to have is noble means and noble ends. Then we want to have Islamic governance. So why do we have Islamic governance? Well, isn't it enough to translate Islamic values into actions, into systems, structures, processes, policies? Isn't it enough to have sustaining outstanding benefits? Well, it's not necessarily enough. We need to have governance. Governance will give us the insurance that we are within the Islamic boundaries. We can talk about corporate governance without mentioning Islamic governance, except that if we talk about an Islamic excellence model, to have credibility, it has to have Islamic governance. So what's Islamic governance? It's basically corporate governance plus Sharia compliance. And if you noticed, I put these in green because these are what separates or distinguish this model from other excellence model. So this model is distinguished by its noble means, not just any means. Means in the European excellence model are called enablers. They're called process in the American Baldrige model. And here we do that through Islamic values. We also talk about all stakeholders to distinguish this model from other models, and we also talk about Islamic governance, which also covers Sharia compliance. Then we have creativity and innovation, and these are common for all excellence models. And we cannot have an excellence model without creativity, without learning, without innovation. And we also need to have quality assurance in order to ensure that we get the same quality no matter who gives us the service or who makes the products. If I produce a product, it has to be the same quality anywhere in the world. If I deliver a service, it has to be the same quality regardless of who delivers the service. That's why we need to have quality assurance. We cannot have excellence without quality assurance. It is there in the European excellence model. It is there in the American excellence model, and they are particularly embedded in the scoring system or the assessment systems of these models. Any questions? Hello? Any questions?
So, Dr. Jibroon, we are done with the presentation now?
No, we're not done. We're not done. I want to make sure that I have some audience listening to me because I cannot see anybody.
No.
You know?
No, we have quite more than a dozen join in right now, but we don't have any questions at the moment posted. Though.
Okay, all right. So basically, in the criteria development, we talked about noble means, noble ends, and we added Islamic governance. So how would our model look like? First of all, we have the noble means. We achieve them through Islamic-based. We start from Islamic-based core values. We translate those values into strategy, structures, and systems. We ensure we serve all stakeholders' benefits. Then after that, we have Islamic governance in. I was asked, why do you have an Islamic governance? Because actually we were planning, and I think we will implement this model at the Dubai Economic Department. As you might hear, Dubai is planning to become the capital of Islamic economics in the world. So they asked me, why would you like to have Islamic governance or Sharia compliance? I said, just to make sure that when we give the award winner will not be somebody, a brewer or something that sells, makes alcohol or something. The only way to ensure that that company would not move there is to have Sharia compliance. As I said, Islamic governance includes corporate governance that you know and conventional management plus Sharia compliance. Now, here's how the model looks like. We'll start with Islamic values that need to be translated into these enablers. We'll talk about 5 enablers: leadership, strategy, human resources, partnership resources, products, services, and processes. And we have the Islamic governance. And then we're supposed to produce benefit for all stakeholders, the society, the partners, the investors, the customers, and the employees. And you can call them SPICE, S-P-I-C-E, SPICE. Okay? Employee, we mean same word as, we have the same meaning for us with HR or people. How do we assess this model? How do we go about assessing this model? Basically, we have what you call proposed scale of AAC, that has alignment, application, credibility, and impact. I'll go through that here. So we have the enabler and Islamic governance. Coming back, the enablers are these are the enablers. Okay. This is the Islamic governance, and these are the benefits. For the enablers and the Islamic governance, I use AA, alignment and application. Okay. For the assessment of the benefits, the results, basically, these are the results, the benefits to all stakeholders. For them, I have CI, which is credibility and impact. The scores will be based on level of evidence provided. The scale ranges from no evidence to complete evidence. What's alignments? We want to make sure enablers, planning, our strategy is aligned with our values. How do we do that? You know, I like to cite this example of Packard when he left HP serving in, as Secretary of State. I don't know, was it for education or whatever? I think it was for energy. He came back to HP, and he found that HP was investing in a lucrative project. He asked his people, how would you finance this project? They said, through debt financing. He said, well, what if we have an economic crisis? He said, how would we take care? How would we serve those loans or those debts? They said, we might fire our people. He said, wait a minute. It's our values, commitment to our people is among our values. We could not do that, and he canceled the project, basically because this project was not aligned to his values. Also, the enablers, the strategy, the processes, the HR policies, you know, all of them have to be aligned with the mission and vision. So this is what we mean by alignment. Then we have the application. The application ensures us or guarantees us quality assurance, because in the application we have to implement things based on approaches. We have to have documented way of, or formal approaches or some kind of, why do we have approaches basically? This is based on a principle of quality assurance, because we want to make sure the job is done the same way by Mr. X or Mr. Y. So The job should not be done haphazardly. It has to be done based on an approach that is pre-planned in advance. Then we have to measure the impact of implementing the approach, and then we improve. So these are the elements of application. What's the final score for enablers and Islamic governments? Is basically the arithmetic average of alignment and application. We add them and we divide them by 2. Then how about the benefits of stakeholders? We have 2 elements, credibility and impact. What do you mean by credibility? Well, sometimes people give us wrong results. They cheat us. We want to make sure that about the integrity of and the accuracy of the benefit information that is provided to us. The impact. When we talk about the impact, we talk about scope, relevance, importance, and sustainability of benefits. Okay? And then what's the score? The score will be the minimum of both. Why? Because if credibility is 0, then there is no impact. The impact is not credible, you get 0. So I don't expect anybody to get credibility of 0, but basically I'm trying to make this concept clear to you. If we have a low score here, we could not have a higher score in the impact, because the impact itself would not be credible. Now, if we look at the excellence model, I put all the most famous excellence model. This is the European excellence model. This is the American Baldrige model, and this is the model I developed. There's lots of similarities. We have results. We have business results. Here we don't talk about results. We talk about benefits, not just results. Results here, you can talk about customer results, people results. But actually, if you look at the European model, this is people results. And yes, the European model takes care of people. And it measures people satisfaction, that is, employee satisfaction. But most of the benefits it talks about are relevant to the investor, because when you talk about productivity, that's more relevant to the investor. When you talk about partnership, partnership is involved in results. And we measure the partnership result based on what you get out of your partner. So we're not really looking for what he gets, we're looking for what you get. This is the same concept, you know. We also have society results here, which is good, but what we are preaching is that all the key results should be for benefit of the organization, basically. The core business is for the benefits of the society. So these are the 2 most famous models in the world, plus the model that I developed. Islamic governments is there independent. It's not there. Islamic values are there as an independent criterion. It's not there. Here it's embedded in leadership. In both model, values are embedded in leadership. Here we talk about a little bit about culture and values in HR, and leadership is mostly on leadership with vision and integrity. Now, every model is based on some basic concepts, and these are the basic concepts of excellence, the European excellence model: adding values to customers, creating sustainable future, developing organizational capability, leading with vision, inspiration, and integrity. This is where the values come in the European model. For the excellence model, everything you do has to be based on your values. All enablers are based on values. Harnessing creativity and innovation, this is common among all excellence models. Managing with agility, succeeding through people, and sustaining outstanding results. For the Baldrige model, the basic values and concepts are visionary leadership, customer-driven organization, organizational and personal learning, valuing workforce members, agility, focus on the future, managing for innovation. Once again, innovation is everywhere in all 3 models. Managing by fact. Social responsibility is here. In the European model, they talk about sustaining results, so they talk about sustainability, they talk about sustainable future, so the concern of social responsibility is there, but again, it's just a small part, it doesn't represent, or it's not at the heart of the model. Now, I have a comparison between the three models. Basically, the FQM has 8 concepts, the Baldrige model has 11 core values. The Islamic excellence model or economic excellence model have 5 principles, including what distinguishes it is Islamic governance and translating values into action. So this is what makes the difference between this model and other model. The criteria, here we have 5 enablers in the AFQM for results. Here we have 6, we call them processes or enablers. They're mentioned as process anyways, that include leadership and strategy and what have you, plus 1 result that is divided in 5. It's 5 on 1, so customer results, people results, leadership and governance results, and what have you. 6 enablers for our model, the Islamic excellence model. We got 6 enablers plus the Islamic governance plus 5 benefits of SPICE that we have seen. Levels of how rigorous are the 3 models. In the excellence, European excellence models, we have the model, we have 9 principal criterion. Then we have a second level of sub-criteria. Then we have the guiding points. So we have 3 levels, the level of the criteria, the 9. Under each of these 9 criterion, we have sub-criteria, and under each sub-criteria, we have guiding points that are not prescriptive, they're just guiding points. Here we have different things. Sometimes we have 4 levels, sometimes we have 2. It's not consistent. The American model is not consistent in terms of levels of rigor or levels of explanations. Then we have the Islamic model. It's similar to the European model, 3 levels, criteria level, this level, plus the sub-criteria, just like the European model, plus the guiding points. Scores. European give equal weight to enablers and results. Americans, they have the heritage of Deming, who says process is more important than result, so they give higher points for process. I also give a higher weight to processes, to enablers and Islamic governance. So we give 450. In this respect, I have more similarities with the American model. The assessment of the European model uses ADAR. Okay, we're talking about enablers. 4 enablers, the 5 first criteria, the 5 enablers used ADAR: approach, deployment, assessment, and refine. Then this is divided into more details. The approach has to be sound and integrated. The deployment has to include implementation and systematic implementation. Assessment and review has 3 components: measuring, learning, and improving. The European model for processes, the 6 processes that exist there: managing by facts, focus on customers, operation management, leadership, strategy. These have ADLI. ADLI is A for approach, just like this approach. D for deployment, just like this deployment. L for learning, just like this learning. And I for integration, which somehow similar to this integration of the approaches. The Islamic excellence model has application, okay, and application and that includes improvement and measurement. Okay, so we have to have the approach that is implemented. We have to have measurement and improvement. But what's new, and this is similar to this part anyways, the first A is similar to this part. Then we have the other one is alignment. Alignment, what alignment are we talking about? We're talking about alignment with the values. For the assessment of the benefits, here we have all the results. Here we have 4 results, 5 results in one, and here we have 5 benefits. How do we assess them? We assess them with the letter R, means results, which is made of R, U, and P. RU means relevance and usability, P performance. Relevance and usability are measured through scope, integrity, and segmentation. Performance is measured through targets, trend, comparison with best practices, and confidence or causality. Causality deals with the relationship between the approach and the results. The American model is similar, talks about level, which is similar to target and whether you achieve the target, trend, which is the same as this trend, comparison, which is the same as this comparison, and again they talk about integration, but this is different from this integration. This integration basically talks more about the scope here, or the usability, how important and how aligned are your, how important and relevant are your performance indicators. The Islamic model talks about credibility and impact, how important your achievement is, your benefit is. Assessment for Islamic government, again, its approach, application, and alignment. And with this, I end my presentation. So what have we seen? We have answered the question of why. Why? Because we want to disseminate the knowledge about for benefits organization, knowledge about Islamic economics, knowledge about conscious capitalism, and we believe that excellence awards can help. Why do we go for these concepts? Because we have suffered lots of crises, and we are looking for different approaches, encouraging different ways of doing business, and what a better way than a way that serves all stakeholders. Okay? Then we presented the model, its basic concepts, its criteria, the way it's assessed, and finally we presented a comparison between this model and the 2 famous models, excellence model in the world, that are the European Foundation Excellence Model and the Baldrige Excellence. Hello?
Thank you very much, Dr. Jabnoon, for a very, very intriguing presentation. Let me go to the floor for the question and answers. Folks, we are now open for Q&A. If you have any questions, you could put it in the question box, or you could raise your hand. There's a hand icon available on your webinar console. If you click on it, you can have an audio chat with Dr. Nasir Jabnoon. Let me go straight to the question box. We have the first question from Mr. Pedro Balsa. The question is, I'm Pedro Balsa, based in Madrid, Spain. Could you please elaborate further in the differences between Islamic model and the European and American ones? It's a generic one.
Okay. Basically, the main difference is that in the Islamic excellence model, we worry about, we focus on the very benefits of all stakeholders. Let me give you an example. For example, when we look at the results of partnership in the European excellence model or in the American excellence model, we usually use a measure that is called return on partnership. What did we get from the partner? This is not necessarily the benefit of the partner. In this model, we will look for what the benefit, what the partner gets. Okay? We talk about social responsibility in the European excellence model and in the American model. Where do we find social responsibility? In the European model, we have something called social results or society results. Okay, that is one of the results. In the excellence model, in the Islamic excellence model, we want the business to be all for the core business to be for the benefits of the society, not just a peripheral or part of the model. In the Baldrige model, we talk about social responsibility as a small part of a sub-criterion of leadership, okay? Which is governance and social responsibility, okay? And we have also a small piece of results that are relevant to this. Actually, social responsibility doesn't count more than 1% in terms of the Baldrige or something like that. Basically, we talk about 45 for the whole process of governance and social responsibility. Whereas in the Islamic model, it's at the heart. We're talking about for benefit organization. And the dominating idea in business today is to serve one stakeholder, that is the stockholder, that is the investor. I remember Mitzberg, once was joking. He said in MBAs we teach students 11 courses on how to maximize shareholder values. It means the value of the investor. And then we give them just one course on ethics where they talk about all other stakeholders. Here we treat all stakeholders equally, So this is a major difference. The other major difference, talking about values. If you go back to the literature about values, if you talk back even to 82 with Peters and Waterman in Search of Excellence, Collins and Porras, the work in Harvard Business Review case about Johnson and Johnson's translating values into actions, we had lots of cases of companies that have achieved tremendous success, not just through having values, because I remember the best core values I've read are probably the core values of Enron, but Enron did not translate values into actions. So basically, this excellence model translates values into action. Everything you do in terms of planning, processes, HR, partnership, has to serve your core values, okay? And you have to show the alignment between what you do and your core values, okay? In the European excellence model, we talk about values precisely in the leadership, leading with vision, integrity. We talk about it when we talk about leadership. In the Baldrige excellence model, we also tackle it when we talk about leadership, particularly governance and social responsibility, and then we tackle it again a little bit on HR. So values are a small part of the model, whereas in the Islamic models, all enablers are basically supposed to be translations of your values. Okay? The other extra ingredient in this model is what I call Islamic compliance, that also includes Sharia compliance. What does Sharia compliance mean? It means accepting Islamic laws. Most or all Islamic banks in the world are Sharia compliant. That is, they follow Islamic codes, legal codes. Okay, so that's also another ingredient of Islamic excellence model. If we take out that model, it will be a value-based excellence model, but we will not call it Islamic excellence model. So the Sharia compliance or abiding by Islamic laws, for example, Islam prohibits alcohol. So we would not be in the business of producing alcohol or selling alcohol, because that you will not qualify for winning a reward like that, because you have to satisfy what we call Islamic governance that includes Sharia compliance. So basically the difference are what you see in green here. So the concepts, the basic concepts here, we have Islamic governance, we have translating values into action. These are differences, okay? For the criteria, we have one other criteria, Islamic governance. Governance is only addressed in sub criteria and basically guiding points in the other models. We don't even have a sub criteria on governance, we have a sub criteria or guiding points. Here we have a principal criterion on governance. And here we also have we talk about the benefits of all stakeholders, and not just what we get from the stakeholders, but what the stakeholders get from the company. So here we have some differences with the score also depends on the Islamic governance, and depends on the values. And we have some difference with the European model that equates results and enablers for the scoring. Here we don't equate, we are more similar to the Baldrige model, because we usually like to put process before result, because we believe that when we have the process right, when we have the ethics right, you will have the results. Whereas if you are too much focused on results, you might fall in what we call the ends justify the means. For the assessment tool, we also have, for the enablers talking about, I'm not talking about results here, I'm not talking about benefits for enablers, we're talking about the planning, about the strategy, about the human resources, about the partnership, about the operations or process. We need to assess the alignment with the Islamic values and the alignment with mission and vision. And here, the European and American models have become more, there's a lot of form there, lots of focus on trends, on comparisons and targets, graphs, and there have been lots of people doing consulting and playing with the numbers. Here, we don't do too much of that. Yes, we measure the impact through trends and comparisons, but we are more interested in the impact for the society. So the I here is very important. So what you see in green here represent what distinguishes the Islamic model from the two other models. There are other differences, but they usually are with one model and not necessarily the other. But the differences that are with both models are what you see in green. They are in the basic concepts, in the criteria, and in the scoring method, okay, or the assessment, the scoring, and in the assessment method that you see here, the assessment method for enablers and for benefits. Does that answer your question?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Nasser. Looking at the time, we're really pressed. We have only 5 minutes, but a couple of questions. So please, folks, for the short questions and short answers, let me go straight to another question from Brother Abdul Salam. The question is, for any system or model to guarantee that the systems and models are doing a perfect job, as we expect, as we have to create KPIs, balanced scorecards, CSFs, critical success factors. Where are these three factors in this model?
Beautiful, beautiful, yeah. What you mentioned is common among all models, is common not only for, common in any organization. Those are basic things. The success factors are the enablers, okay? They are the enablers. The European model calls them the process. Here I call them the enablers, okay? These are the success factors. For the benefits, how do we measure the benefits? We measure them through KPIs. And how do we measure the KPIs? Once again, we have to make sure that for here, for example, we have to have the targets, the trends, the comparison. These are the results of the KPI. You have to have target for your KPI. You have to have a trend, improvement trend. You have to compare yourself, the performance on your KPI with best practices, with best performing companies. You have to relate the KPI to your key success factors or your approaches, okay? Your enablers, basically, okay? And then you measure the impact of your KPIs, all right? So the KPIs will be in the benefits, and the success factors will be in the enablers, okay?
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Okay, so let me go back to the questions. Just a second. We have another one. Do you believe that this model, do you believe that is model, is it practical or is it not romantic?
Well, romanticism is not bad by the end of the day, but I'm not talking about business romance here. Let me tell you that before I started introducing the model, I gave lots of literature, and I have much more literature. I could not show everything, but I showed lots of studies that showed that for benefits organizations, or companies that have translated values into actions have done better than their competitors. Firms of endearment that cherish or look for the benefit of all stakeholders have done 9 times better than their competitors in a period of 10 years. Plenty of evidence supporting that. Okay. Now, what we're trying to do, we know that it is practical, we know it has been practiced, we know it has been successful. What we're trying to do is to spread that knowledge, those practices, through this excellence model. So the issue is not practical or not, the issue is to what extent people know about it. For benefit organizations are getting popular in the United States, there are lots of funds for them. Social entrepreneurship now is in every corner, every single business school, or almost every single decent business school has a program in social entrepreneurship. So conscious capitalism is on the rise, you know. So it is there, but we need to disseminate the knowledge, and excellence models have done an excellent job in disseminating knowledge. And because let me tell you, in many parts of the world, people don't see this, and they never heard about it. So that's what I'm trying to let them hear about it through this model.
Okay, we have a caller who has raised a hand. Let me go straight to the caller, Brother Ahmad Sharab. Brother, you have raised your hand. Could you please introduce yourself and ask a question?
Yes, this is Dr. Ahmad Sharab. I'm a director for one company here in Saudi Arabia. Our company is specialized in healthcare business initially, but for me, I am from economic and management background. Thank you for the presentation and for this meeting. Now, as you described, I could not attend the meeting from the beginning, but as I understand that it is not we can use, let me ask this, can we use a mixed model from all of these models, or we cannot see something like this? We see one model in a culture or in a nation or in a country. So if I have to choose one model to be against this crisis, financial crisis in the time beings, do you think that there is any differentiation or any features for any models to against the others in this in facing the financial crisis?
Oh, definitely. The model that I would support is definitely this model, Islamic excellence model. Now, if I were a non-Muslim, would I be able to implement it? Yes, you could implement it. The only thing that you would not have is the part of Islamic governments here you should do without Sharia compliance. But yes, this model is most suitable, the most up-to-date, most in line with conscious capitalism, you know, and it's the one that basically translates values into actions, not in parts of its enablers, but in all its enablers. So definitely I would go with this model. Now, if we're talking about non-Muslims, yes, they can use this model, but they do it without the Sharia compliance. Now, have we implemented something like that? Yeah, we have implemented something like that in UAE too, in the in UAE business through the Sharjah Excellence Economic Award. There was no Sharia compliance, but we had Islamic-based, value-based, not Islamic, value-based excellence model. So definitely I would go with this model because in this model we have the benefit of all stakeholders at heart, you know. Our problem is even these models have gone some steps towards benefits or towards benefiting stakeholders, but still they don't live up to the for benefit organization, social capitalism, and social conscious capitalism and conscious and social entrepreneurship.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad. Do you have any other questions or supplement?
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for asking an interesting question. So let me go to to the question box, but just to caution a cautionary note that we are already an hour past. So Dr. Nasser, a short answer would be appreciated. We have a supplementary question from Brother Abdul Salam. The question is, what kind of leadership and intelligence that might succeed in creating this kind of models? Is it collaborative leadership or a collaborative intelligence?
Well, you need when we talk about leadership, and you want me to give a short answer, right? I don't think I can give a short
Possibly,
answer.
yes.
So let me tell you, let me tell you that we need a value-based leadership, principled leadership, a sophisticated leadership, so that combines the collaboration and the intelligence. And we can address this issue in another webinar on leadership, and I have done a lot of work on that.
Perfect. Another one from Mr. Jarin Kadir. The question is, which company gives ratings for such models or these models?
Which companies give us rating to those models? Well, basically, we have the Malcolm Baldrige Award. The Malcolm Baldrige Award was created by the American government. It was basically, it started as an idea by the Reagan administration, but it was developed during the Bush administration. And they did it because they felt that American companies were not competitive, and they developed this model to make American companies more competitive. And they have achieved that purpose by basically disseminating the information and the knowledge about quality. The European Foundation for Quality developed the excellence model. So there's no such a thing as, there's no organization that rates these models per se, but there's lots of academic research that makes comparisons and gives analysis and addresses the impact of implementing such models. But there's no organization that rates these models. In Japan, they have the Deming model, and there are also lots of research on how to implement it. Most governments and bodies of business bodies in the world use either the European Excellence Model or the Baldrige Model. Okay. Once again, there are research papers addressing this and analyzing this and critiquing these models, but there's no rating any agency per se, because these are models. They are not like financial company where you rate. But for us in the Dubai Economic Department, we're integrating this with rating agencies, and this model will be used to rate organizations. So this model itself is a tool for rating, but I don't expect it to be rated by anybody except that it will be critiqued and addressed by researchers, academicians, and journals and conferences.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. That really brings us towards the end of the webinar. Any quick concluding remarks that you would like to give before we dismiss out? Dr. Nasser, you there?
Yep.
Okay, sir. So, I said this really brings us towards the end of the webinar. Any concluding remarks that you would like to give quickly before we dismiss out?
Well, thank you very much. I think we have taken a lot of time from the audience. That's enough. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you very much. I really want to thank you on behalf of the Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship for taking this time to deliver this very interesting